Good afternoon. It is about 4 p.m. on the Friday 15th of January 2021. My name is Aaron Hunt, I'm a partner here at Stace Hammond, and I head up the Migration Partners team. As always, this is not legal advice. This video, it's purely our comments about immigration in New Zealand. If you're looking for legal advice, get in contact with us by email, by telephone, and we'll see if we can help you out. Now, we did a video yesterday regarding the 1,000 students they're now looking at bringing in the next few months. We were planning to do this video yesterday. Of course, that was pushed back to today. I thought I'd do it Friday afternoon. You sort of get to the point where you might have a break from doing regular work, so I thought I'd do this video. This video is different to our usual videos, in the fact that it's less about looking at changes, but more about how the process works. Now, in the past, we have discussed the CPVV process. We've given you a few ideas as to how it works. We thought we'd actually try doing a bit of a screen capture and go through an application so you see what it is, the process is, and you can sort of get our comments on it. Welcome back. That intro part was originally recorded on Friday the 15th of January. Unfortunately, the recording there didn't work out that well. I tried again yesterday and the audio stopped recording partway through, so we're going to try a third time, and hopefully this time we can get through it okay. Please excuse the audio. I am using just a regular headset. I'm not using my proper microphone for doing this. What we are going to be doing is pretty quickly going through the CPVV process, both the first EOI stage and the application itself. We're doing that in regards mostly to those applying under partnership, but we'll also touch on critical health workers as well as other critical workers. Now, as I've always said, this is not legal advice. We are not going through and telling you how you should do your application for your situation. What we are going to be going through, and just to let you know as to what these various fields are for, and to explain, because at times knowing how these things works is often something that you get from experience. If you're doing an application for the first time, then often you could be fine doing it by yourself. It's just not knowing what these fields are. Of course, many of you should actually get legal advice, so definitely if you are having concerns about anything, or if there are any issues, which we'll sort of going to go through a few possible issues today, then definitely get in contact with us and we'll see if we can help you out. So first of all, we're going to be looking at the first stage. Now, of course, this is the Immigration New Zealand website. You should know it well, immigration.govt.nz. Up the top here is the COVID-19 updates part, and you click on there, and this is probably the most important part of the page. This is in regards to the border entry requirements, so the border exceptions. Now, we're going to go to here, and we're going to look first actually at the other critical workers and get that out of the way before we get onto the CPVV itself. Now, the other critical workers is for those people who want to come to New Zealand under employment, but not as a critical health worker. So a critical health worker, the application is made by the applicant themselves. If for other critical worker, the application is made by the employer. I think on the basis that sometimes these people will bring in a number of staff, so they'll bring in perhaps 20, 30 staff, possibly. So they do it as one process rather than multiple different processes. So go through here, you're going to look for critical purposes, reasons to come to New Zealand, and then further down you're going to find a section on other critical workers. There's critical health workers, Pacific humanitarian entry. Here we go, other critical workers. So we click onto here. Now this, as I said, is an application made by the employer rather than by the employee. Sorry, I just to make sure that my microphone's still working. Did that a few times during the recording. Now, this is a one-page application. It's $380 New Zealand for the cost, and it's generally about 2 weeks, it says here, of processing time. Now, of course, this is only open to a very small number of people. Generally, those who have a unique
talent or skill that's not really available in New Zealand that has to be shown or be proved in some way, or a time-critical role in regards to a major infrastructure project or a government-approved project or a government-approved program. There is a list of what these are within the operational manual and on the website. Also, government-to-government agreements. Significant wider benefits, there's government approved science programs, and if it's for a longer, more than 6 months, you're generally looking for someone who's paid at least twice the median salary, so $106,080 per annum or more. As I said, these are generally reasonably rare, so don't expect this to be available to many people. There are also some of these available in certain roles. So there are some roles that the government has said, okay, we're going to allow so many of this role into the country. A good example is for veterinarians who work with large animals, so generally involved in the agricultural field. There's several hundred of those. I think there's people who operate heavy farm machinery. I think there's several hundred of those as well. So there are some jobs where these are available for. Otherwise, generally they're looking for those sort of higher paid jobs in roles which just there aren't staff available in New Zealand. So you'll come, the employer will come to this page and you'll go to the employer request for critical exception. Now, see, it's $380 for the application. Now, if you do try and go here and choose that you are a worker, it will say to go away because you cannot apply for this visa. It is only available to apply for the employer or the supporting agency, such as a lawyer or an immigration advisor. You go into here now. Here you'll have the organization's legal name. This is the employer's legal name. Now, with legal names, you will often have a company name and then you have a trading as name. Often the company name will be ended with limited, and then the business name could be something completely different. It does not have to be related. A good example here we often see is Pizza Hut. It could be in here. It could be Pizza Hut, the main company, but the company is actually, I think, called Yum Brands Limited. So you'd have Yum Brands Limited here, you'd have Pizza Hut here. So that is sort of the distinction, that the business name does not always match the legal name. The legal name will often be a limited company, so end in limited. The New Zealand business number is something you can find online pretty easily. There's a brief summary of the work that the business does. So of course, if it's Yum Brands, it would be making pizza or running a franchise of pizza shops. Then of course, address, contact person. Now this would be the contact person at the employer, not the lawyer or advisor. Email address for the contact person, phone number, and if there is an advisor filling out, so they could be an advisor or a lawyer, then you'd take yes on that and you'd put in the name, address, and for me you'd leave that blank because I am not required to be licensed, at least not in that way. Now, critical work criteria. This is the basis for the critical work application approved program. That's that list of programs and events. So America's Cup's on there. There's a hospital building. There's certain motorways being built that are on there. Government agreement, government funded science program, urgent roles, unique experience, and or an approved class being that veterinarian or heavy machinery on farm sort of workers that go into there. Then is there a requirement that the employer pays for any cost in regards to marital isolation and quarantine and any domestic travel. Sort of an expectation where the workers will travel to New Zealand if approved. Now, of course, this will not be a fixed date because that's hard to fix right now with the MIQ delays, which we will get into, we'll mention further in this video. But as general an idea of when the employer is looking to bring people in, what plans are in place for them to depart New Zealand when the work is completed. Now, if the job was going to be a long-term job, sort of coming into New Zealand with the intention of working here for years, then you'd put that in there. Explain why it's possible to deploy New Zealand workers. Basically, is there anybody available in New Zealand, and if there is, why you can't redeploy them? Do you have staff in another location? Can you move them, that sort of thing? And is it possible for the people to work remotely? Could this job be done without requiring someone to come to New Zealand? And how many people are required? How many for less than 6 months, more than 6 months? And any family members, as family members can be included, being partners, independent children, and we'll come back later on as to what those mean. There's also one form to fill out, which just goes through and details these things. Actually, I can't bring it up on here. I don't think. No, I can't bring it up within this. You won't see the recording, but it is fairly general. It's just separate lines, one for each employee, very little information that's uploaded there, and of course any evidence to support the case for critical workers. That would depend on what the application is. If it was for a role to be involved in management, there could be letters from the employer. There could be some sort of evidence if it was to do with working to build help build a hospital that's on the approved list, and there could be again letters to show the qualifications of the person, the need for the way the employer, that sort of thing. Declaration, hit yes I agree, hit submit, and then you're asked to pay the $380 fee. So that is relatively straightforward. As I said, they're not granting a great deal of those. They do have that strict criteria to fulfill. That is the critical worker. Chances are they will come back once it's been picked up and request more information, because this field is missing a lot of information or doesn't provide much ability to upload information. So there'll often be further questions depending on what the job is. So that is the other critical worker. Now we're going to go on to the main section of today's video, which I warn you, this is going to be a long video, as you probably saw from the time recording in YouTube. We're going to look at the CPVV for others. So we're going to go through here and have a look. Several links here. Request for travel to New Zealand. So this is the one which you do if you are coming here as a partner, or if you're coming here as a critical health worker. Now this visa is this form is a pretty general form. It covers a lot of different categories. So there might be some questions in here which are a little bit strange or a little bit odd, and you sort of question as to whether they need to be on the form. But we will sort of detail those as we go through. It's a $45 fee to make this first stage. This is a two-step process. Apart from Australians, partners will come to those as well. The reason why they bought this fee is if people were submitting a lot of applications for this exception. I think the record was 45 or 50 applications from a gentleman in Brazil. So immigration thought, well, this is going to cover the cost of having this first stage reviewed, and also discourage just mass applications. If you do get declined on this, it doesn't mean you shouldn't apply again. It just means that generally you should look at your application and see perhaps where it is missing, or whether it's not clear as to your basis for applying. If you do get declined, it's possible that immigration were correct in declining you, because you may not meet the requirements. If you are sort of getting declines, you might want to talk to a lawyer and sort of get some advice as to whether you should really be applying at all, or whether it's one of those situations where you're unlikely to get that border exception until the border, well, wait till the border opens. Okay, so the reason for travel. We're going to cover a critical health worker here. We're also going to look at partner of New Zealand citizen or resident. We will mention that there's also Australian citizens who normally reside in New Zealand. That's a relatively quick process if you can prove that you normally reside in New Zealand. The other one we are going to just touch on is just going to mention now is this partner of student or work visa holders. Now, some of you I know are in a situation where your partner is in New Zealand on a student or work visa, and unfortunately this being included in this list does not mean that you have an opportunity to apply. This is for people who were themselves living in New Zealand already and were here themselves on a student or a visitor or a work visa, or and they have, for whatever reason, found themselves outside New Zealand, and their partner who holds a student or work visa is still in New Zealand. So it's basically giving the partner a chance to return to New Zealand where they usually live. So it's not open to other people, other categories. So I might just quickly bring up the operational manual on that so you see exactly what the wording is, just so it's clear. That is under special H5 2515G. So this is the critical purposes for reasons for travelling New Zealand. These are the various different categories. We're going to cover F shortly, but this one here, people who hold a visitor, work or student visa and are ordinarily resident in New Zealand and are the partner or dependent child of a work or student holder who is in New Zealand. So that's what that one is for. The partners of work or student visa holders who and the partner is still in New Zealand. So unfortunately it's not an opening for, I know a number of you are looking for that opening. This is not it. But we are going to look at, first of all, partners of New Zealand citizens or residents. We will come back and quickly go over critical health workers to show the difference, but it is much generally the same application form. So first of all, describe circumstances for your reason to travel to New Zealand. If, of course, you'll be looking to come to New Zealand to be with your partner, and that's going to be the situation. You have 3,000 character limit, and that is all on this document to explain your reason to come to New Zealand and explain your partnership and the status of your partnership. So try to focus on what's going in here. I know that a lot of you are hurting, a lot of you, it's difficult being away from your partner. I cannot imagine what it is you're going through, but don't focus on that in this application. You're looking for to prove that you are in a genuine and stable relationship and that you have previously lived together. Those are the main focuses, and that's the main requirements from here. We'll see it here. Partner, dependent child, legal guardian, New Zealand's a holder visa, who is either travelling with the thing or ordinary resident of New Zealand or has a visa based on here. So here it's going to be travelling with the New Zealand citizen or residence visa holder. Now the word partner, and if you scroll down here it will say that partner is defined in E4.1. So E4.1, so that's the requirements under E4.1, and under here you will see that applicant, dependent child, partner. So they have to be married, civil union, or de facto. De facto is what will cover many of you if you aren't married. And in a genuine and stable partnership. So you have to show that you are in a genuine stable partnership, and even though it's not listed in that section there, they will also be looking for people who can show that they have previously lived together. So that's the focuses here. So as I said, don't focus on how much harm or how much hurt it is causing you. What immigration, no, they do have hearts. They are looking to apply what the rules state. So yeah, use that 3,000 character limit wisely. If you are traveling with your partner, then you can say yes here. If you're not traveling with your partner, then your partner will need to, the person who's applying needs to come from a visa waiver country, which would then put you under the, let's go here, H6. So relationship-based visitor visa for visa waiver partners of New Zealanders. So that's what you'll be applying for. So if you're not traveling with your partner, then you must be coming from a visa waiver country. If you're coming from a place that's not a visa waiver country, then you must be ticking yes here and traveling with your partner. Okay, so partner surname, first name, date of birth, passport number. Now here, there's a lot of confusion as to what a relationship is. Now here it is, they're not asking the question as to how long you have lived with your partner in a partnership. They're asking how long you have been in a relationship. Now relationships are often not a black and white scenario. There could be a period of dating with no sort of point where you tick box and say, hey, we're in a relationship now. So just think about it honestly. At what point did the two of you consider yourselves to be in a genuine and stable exclusive relationship? So it's just the two of you, the intention of the two of you just to be together, and with an intention for that relationship to last for an indefinite time. That's the point where you start the relationship according to Immigration New Zealand, and that's the point where you have to put it in here. So you may have only had a short period living together, but you could have had several years, and that's the years you want to note here. country of permanent place of residence, so it's where you are living, not necessarily where your citizenship is. You could be there on a work visa or some other kind of visa, but that's basically where you're living. And it's the visa you hold based on your relationship to your partner. Most likely you don't have a visa. That's the point of this application, so it's probably going to be either a no or I do not hold a visa. This is where you put in your details. Here was your partner. Now it's your details: a surname, first name, date of birth, gender, marital status. Here you want to put down definitely either married or partnership, who's applying for a visa under that relationship. So you don't want to put down single, it'll be very confusing. Citizenships: do you hold an Australian residence visa? Country or territory of birth. If you applied for a visa before with immigration, you will have a client number that will go into there. It helps immigration, links things together. Then of course your passport information and the contact information for yourself. Again, if you have a lawyer or an advisor, put their details in here, or if they're doing it for you, they'll put their details in here. Now here, because you are applying for a CPVV under partnership, you can say yes here, but you'd say yes here for a son or a daughter. You would not be including them, the partner, within the application. So while the partner is mentioned because they are the New Zealand citizen or resident, here it is the secondary applicant. Now they are not applying for a visa themselves, so the partner would not be included in here, but the son or daughter or multiple children can be. So if you do have that, then enter details in here and fill it out going through. If there's more than one, you can add a secondary applicant and a tertiary, and as many as required. Now with this, with children, dependent children who are under 18 are considered to be dependent by default unless Immigration New Zealand believes otherwise. So there isn't a need to sort of show that there is dependence there. If they're 18 or 19, when you get to the second stage, you are going to need to show that they are totally or substantially dependent on you, also that they are single and that they do not have their own children, if you want to include them. If they're over 19, then they cannot be included in this application. So their details, now character details. This is a smaller part of the main application. It just sort of covers the bare essentials. Have you ever been sort of had an immigration issue? Have you ever been prohibited from entering New Zealand from deportation from New Zealand in the past? Immigration probably already know that if you have been, but it's a rare situation. Have you convicted of any offence? Now this here, an offence is very broad. An offence does include things like drunk driving or speeding offences. If they have basically been to court, you've been given a conviction. If it's just a speeding ticket, that's not an offence. If you've gone to court because of it and you have been given a conviction, then you need to say yes here, even if it's a minor. If you think it's a minor thing, still mention it. Better to mention it and then explain it, because if you don't mention it and when you do a police certificate it comes through, that will cause much larger issues. Have you ever been included or convicted of an offence? Which more sentence? Okay, that's sort of, have you been to prison? 2 questions there. Now the health questions, again, this is a smaller subset of a larger set of questions you'll be asked in the main application. Do you require dialysis? Have you had tuberculosis? Have you physical incapacity? Where have you visited the last 14 days? This is around COVID-19. Have you been to a country which has mass numbers of infections? We haven't seen any applications being declined because of this, but that they are asking that. Contact with people who have COVID-19 in the last 14 days. Have you had symptoms? Have you been tested? Now, if you do say yes, it is asking for the date tested for COVID-19. Now, it doesn't say the most recent test, but that's what our assumption is. So if you've had multiple tests, I've had a couple just as precautionary, then you'd put in the most recent one. Have you received results from that test? And if you say yes, was it positive? And yes or no. So if you have had COVID-19, we've had clients who have had it or have it currently, then we'll be looking for a clear test. Well, the most recent test is the one that would be included in here. If there was more than one test, then with the actual main application, we'll be giving immigration the details of those tests just to show, well, they did have it, they have been shown as being clear after this point, after this period of self-isolation. And of course, do you agree to MIQ? That is a requirement. You can hit yes, I agree, hit I'm not a robot, submit, pay the $45 fee, and then that is the application. Now, there is one small change here. If we go near the top and we change your country of citizenship, this is the main applicant. If we change this to Australia, that actually changes the form. And that if we scroll down here, when we get to the MIQ section, we will see some new boxes appear. Now, this is because with people who are Australian citizens, this is a one-step process. With everybody else, you are applying for a CPVV. It's a visitor visa to come into the country. Australians, they have decided that they will be granting them residence visas, which Australians get on arrival anyway. What it does mean is that it is a slower application process because immigration do a lot more time and processing it all, but it's only this one step. There is no second step to the process as there is with others. So there's this extra step here. Basically, you're asked sort of twice about MIQ. So you can't travel unless you have a place booked and you agree to use that place booked. And he gets a chance to upload evidence of a passport photograph. We will cover later in the video what the passport photograph should look like and the requirements for it. Evidence of the relationship, and of course any dependent children evidence. Now, for the relationship, this is always the most difficult part with many applications for people, and this is where if you haven't had a long time living with your partner, you may definitely want to look at getting legal advice. The focus here is showing, first that of course it's genuine and stable relationships. You can show sort of communication, details of your history, do a letter showing, talking about how you met, how your relationship blossomed, that sort of thing. You also want to show details of your living together, where that is. So it could be if you've got a property together, you've got a mortgage, and you both own a property, or you've got a lease agreement you're both on, bank documents that show to the same address, any letters that show to the same address, that sort of thing. That ties in then with sort of your letters or a timeline you provide as to your relationship. So yeah, if you've had years and years living together, that's generally should be hopefully fairly easy. If you've had a much shorter period, that's when you need to go searching for those documents that show that living together period and explain to immigration your time living together. And as I said, yeah, that's when you probably want to get some legal advice. And that is the difference with the Australian approach, and that this is a one-stage approach rather than going to requiring a main application. This is the application itself. Now let's go back to the top, and we'll make the change to actually this being a critical health worker application, which removes a few of the fields. So here's circumstances, of course, wanting to travel to New Zealand, have an offer of a certain job, or have a place in CAP if you're a nurse, and who is your employer, what health service you'll be delivering. Here's a list of the health services for which you can get that border exception. Are you registered? Yes, no, not required. Start date, how long do you plan to work in New Zealand for? If it is going to be indefinitely or for as long as possible, then definitely put that in there. Immigration are expecting people to come to New Zealand to provide health services and then to leave after a short period. The intention generally is going to be to come to New Zealand for forever for most people. So put that in there, that your intention is to remain here working in that position. Principal applicant, same as before, all the details. Here you can of course put single if you are single. This is not based on relationship. But if you are married or in a partnership, then definitely put those. Your address, again, advisor information. Secondary applicant, if you're a second applicant, here you can put partner. Your partner can be included. Again, you need to probably show that partnership, show that genuine and a stable relationship status, that live together status. And of course, if there is children as well, you can add another applicant and a third or fourth, however many there are. Same character requirements and health requirements as before. and then declaration. So it is generally the same, mostly as the CPVV for those who aren't from Australia. Now, if you fill out that application, once you've done that, you'll submit it, costs $45, and within hopefully a day or two, you'll get a response, hopefully a successful one, in which you get an invitation to apply an ITA number. Now, if that is the case, you'll go back to the Immigration New Zealand website, and you will log in. Now, what you need to be looking for here is visitor visa, and you'll need to log in. Now, if you haven't got a RealMe account, I will be blurring out my details here so you can't see my account details, but you need to go here and create a RealMe account. Now, RealMe is the system used by all government departments to handle logins and passwords. It's used by the Companies Office, used by the Intellectual Properties Office, used by a number of different departments. So it's fairly commonly used. You'll create that, you'll use it a lot of different places. But here I have an account set up, so I'm going to just log into that. And what you'll see here is unsubmitted applications. Now these, John with Silver Hands is not a real person. That is just my first 2 recordings where I have created fake accounts, and we're going to try another one now with using John's name. But if you scroll down, there'll be other ones that I've done. There'll be some ones that I'm working on for clients, and under submitted, where you'll find your application. Once it's submitted, you'll see it under the submitted side, so you can go back and check it, add more documents, that sort of thing. You can add documents to an application after it's been submitted, so if there is more evidence that you get while it's with immigration, feel free to add more evidence as it goes, just to help immigration to make their decision. What we're going to do is we're going to do a visitor visa. It's going to check my recording, one moment. Okay, light's still flashing, so it still looks good. So we're going to go here to a visitor visa. That's what a CPVV is, whether you're doing it for health or for partnership. So you're going to go here. Do you need to have a credit card to pay? Yes. If you say no, that's going to say no, you can't proceed. You need a card to pay for your application. Yes. Are you outside New Zealand? Yes. You're applying for a visitor visa? Yes. Are you applying for a visitor visa as a partner? Well, here we are doing that. So yes. Do you have an invitation to apply? If you don't, then you will not be able to apply unless you're from a visa waiver. That is questionable. But anyway, so we'll say yes because you have an ITA. Sub application. Okay, and this is where you'll enter in the ITA that they have sent you. Now the ITA lasts for a month. So, but we'll say get it used as soon as you can. It is 8 digits long. We're going to make one up here. Now, don't go thinking you can just make up a number and submit without actually getting an ITA, because if you do submit it, the application shouldn't go any further. It should just sit there in a queue and never be allocated. The system doesn't appear to check that number, but at some point when they are doing the lodgement check, the first check on the application, we're pretty certain they'll be looking at the ITA number that you have here, checking it against their system, and they'll checking against the passport that it has been granted for. So you can't just try and guess a number. If you manage to fluke a real number, it still won't match up to your passport. So you really do need to do that first expression of interest. Now, several times you'll be asked about MIQ. This is the managed isolation, the requirement to spend several weeks in a hotel in New Zealand to make sure you are COVID-19 free, and you understand the box that you have to have a confirmed place before travelling to New Zealand, or you can be denied boarding. And you agree to use the managed isolation allocation system to reserve your place. There are very few people who are exempt from managed isolation, so I think that's very unlikely for any of you to be required to tick that, so just choose yes for most cases. They'll then go through here and put in all your details. Now, just so I can get this application moving forward, we'll put through a person called John Silverhands, just because he needed a name, so we'd call him that. He is a Mr. And with this one here, this doesn't have to be an official name. It can just be nicknames you're commonly known as. If you have changed your name, perhaps when you got married or for any other reason, you can put your previous name in here. Well, you should put your previous name in there. So it is another name that you have been known by. In this case, Johnny is his nickname. He's often called Johnny. So we'll set that down here as a preferred name. Now he is male. Date of birth, we're just going to say he's 17th of June. Let's say he's in 62. Yes. And we're going to say that he was born in Vietnam. And we'll say he was born in Hanoi. I don't know what province that is, I should remember. We're going to just make up a passport number for him. Of course, in reality, you'd have your real passport details. And that's going to expire in the future. Now, I choose Vietnam because I have a number of friends there. I've been there a number of times. That's why I'm choosing Vietnam. It's as I hold very dearly. Partnership status, of course, you're applying under partnership, so this is going to be for Johnny. He's going to say that he is engaged. Previously applied for a visa for New Zealand. He's going to say yes, he has, and we're going to put in his 8-digit number, his 8-digit client's number. You will have this. It'll be listed on communication with immigration if you have applied before, or on any visas you've had, or declined letters as well. It'll be on that letter. The client number should be on there. We're going to give him an address. He is living in his home country of Vietnam. 123 Nha Trang Street. Don't know if it's a real street or not, but Nha Trang is a real place. And we're just going to put in just, I don't know what the structure of phone numbers are in Vietnam, so just that, and we're going to have john@samurai.com. Now, I'm not going to submit to this application, of course, because it is all made up, so someone at samurai.com isn't going to be getting an email from immigration being very confused. As it says postal address, yes, if you live in a location that doesn't have postal address, then you could put no and enter an address for postal address. Most unlikely that immigration will post things to you, but yeah, generally it's done by email these days. Same country as your address when posting information, yes. Now, this could be no sometimes, especially when a couple will meet at a third location. So say the applicant is from a country which the New Zealand citizen or resident can't get access to. Say they're from Japan. Japan has closed its borders to outsiders from going in there during the lockdown. So perhaps they instead meet in Dubai or meet in some other third country. So in that case, you'll not be in the same country. You'd choose no, and you provide details about where you are. But in the case, yes, they are in Vietnam. Will it be submitted within a group? No, it won't be, because in this case, any dependent children, John has one, it will be included in this application itself, not part of a group. And you'd agree to this. As I said, I'm not submitting this, I'm ticking this box just purely to get to the next page. Okay, so here we are applying for a special category visitor visa. These first two won't currently go through, and it is a critical purpose visitor visa. These first two are the ones in place for COVID-19 situation. The rest of these were already there. So if you do see this one here, please do not think that means that parents and grandparents can get visas. They cannot. It was just already in the system before COVID-19 hit. These were already in the system. These were added for this situation. These are the ones, important ones. This is the one here that you'd be ticking the box for as a partner. And here there is going to be someone under 16 who is applying, who are going to be traveling with just one parent or travelling alone. Are you outside New Zealand? Yes. Estimated date of arrival, this is going to be a guess. With managed isolation, you need to book managed isolation before you come to New Zealand so that your date of arrival, you have a space booked. Now, managed isolation, let's just have a look at the dates currently. Managed isolation New Zealand. Let's have a look. Is there the dates here? No, we'll go to where's the link? The system here. As you'll see, next 3 months are fully booked. They are bringing out dates for April will come on the website before 22nd of January, so the next 5 days they'll release April. But chances are he's not going to get into the country before the end of March. So we're going to put in here 11th of April is a sort of a tentative, hopeful date. It is not a fixed date. If we put in sort of, January, February, they'd be very concerned about the date. It is just a guess. Again, this was based on the old system where you could sort of put in a date that you pretty keen to get on that day on. Right now, if you don't hit that date, it doesn't matter. They're going to ignore that anyway. Estimated date of departure. This one is similar. For Johnny, he's coming to New Zealand to basically live the rest of his life with his partner. So we're going to say sort of 2036. He has no intentions to leave, but it is a required field. The little red star, it's a required field to be entered, and there is no option of never, because this is based on a visitor visa, which is an intention to leave at some point, even though immigration know that these people, are not intending to leave. Financial support and length of stay. Now, there are 3 options here. There is a need to show that there is finances somewhere to cover the cost of a person being in the country, at least for sort of 6 months or so. If Johnny has his own funds, he can show a bank statement or some sort of bank letter from his bank to confirm he has funds, then he can sufficiently support his own stay. He can have a sponsor. His partner can sponsor it, or you can put in both. There is no need to put in both, but you can put in both. It just gives immigration reassurance that there is there is 2 people there that are willing to use their own funds to support his time here. So it's important to them both. So if you can do both, you can put in both, or you can do one or the other. It's not important. Same here with the travel outward from New Zealand. There is no need to show travel out because there's no intention to travel out, but it is a red starred box that must be filled in. So we're going to say either of those really. We're going to say that he has sufficient funds to purchase travel. We're going to have that in there for a reason. We're going to show you a form that this triggers. So having this box ticked, or this box ticked, triggers the 1025 form, which we will go through as well. How do you intend to be in New Zealand? Now, this is a tricky one, and one which I think we need to just describe what this triggers. Now, our approach with immigration always is to be honest, completely honest, tell them what will answer the questions and be honest with your answers. So for our clients, we do, if they're coming to New Zealand for to live, then we do tick that 24 months or more box. However, we have had a client recently who, due to COVID-19, couldn't go and get medicals done. Now, before we go into what immigration told us, we will state that if it's box ticked to 6 months or less, the system here will not request for a medical x-ray or police certificate. If you do the 6 to 12 months, it will require an x-ray. If you start doing these larger ones, it will require an x-ray, a medical, and a police certificate for every country where you are a citizen or have spent sufficient time in the past so many years. So ticking these 2 boxes here basically trigger a number of additional documents that are required. Now, the purpose of the CPVV is to get you into the country. Once you're in New Zealand, you'll be looking at a further visa to allow you to remain within the country. So, and that further visa will require those 3 documents, the police certificate, the medical, and the x-ray. So for our clients, we'll often say to them, look, you're going to need the documents anyway. You're currently in your country. Typically, it's easy to get police certificates, usually in your country. We will go through with you how you find out how to get police certificates in your country. So it's usually best said, honest with immigration, put in 24 months or more. Now, we have seen people online who have been putting in 6 months or less in the applications, even though they're coming to New Zealand intentionally to spend the rest of their lives here. We don't like that approach because we think it is being misleading, because you are filling out a form to saying to immigration how long you're going to come to New Zealand for. If you tick that, then are you being honest? We did have our clients, as I said, who due to COVID, they cannot get some of those documents done. So spoke to immigration, and immigration said to us just to use that box. There's an expectation, they told us, that that box would be used for these applications, but that has not been publicly stated. So in that situation, we have asked immigration to put that onto their file, that we were told that by immigration, and we've included it in our cover letter, stating that we were told to state that because their intention actually is for this one to be ticked, but we were told to tick that one. So if you do have issues getting those documents, then talk to immigration and they may give you other options. But yeah, when we handle it for our clients, we will be looking to tick this box here if that is the truth. If the outcome is 24 months or more, we will say to them, get your medicals and x-rays done now, your police certificate done now. Now with medicals x-rays, they last 3 years from the date they are done, and the police certificates last 2 years. So if they get them done with this application, then when they apply within New Zealand, they're not required to be done for several years for future visas. So it doesn't mean you have to get them done again. If you get them done now, get it done, come to the country, not required for several years. So often it is easier to get it done now rather than in New Zealand. Actually, we will go into how you get medicals and x-rays done. We'll do that now rather than doing that later. So we'll go back to the Immigration New Zealand website. We'll just close this pop-up screen. And if you go down the bottom here, you will see, you can go to glossary, and then you scroll down. No, not glossary. Sorry, wrong page. Let's go back here. Resource library, that's the one. Then you scroll down here, you will see police certificate and find a doctor. So police certificate is how you get a police certificate. So we'll use Johnny as a good example, because I've read through this before. So Vietnam, he is currently residing in Vietnam, and he is a citizen of Vietnam. So he can apply in person at a municipal or provincial justice department nearest to where you live permanently, or they can go to that one there. There's a website. So there is a few options here how to do it, but it's done in person because he is living in the country. Now, if we change that to a outside the country for a citizen, we'll choose view, and it's done by mail, which could probably be a lot slower, a lot more of a hassle than doing it in person. So, and yeah, original certified copy of your passport, because you want to send that. If you certified copy, you send. It's just a bit of a hassle to do it by mail. So for Johnny, we'd be saying, look, before you leave Vietnam, let's do the let's do it in the actual application now. Do police certificate with that application, so it's out of the way. It's easy to do because you are still in Vietnam. With the medical and the x-ray, if these are required, which they're going to be in his application, as we'll see, we're going to go to this page, which we linked to before from the bottom, and we're going to go search for into Vietnam, and it's going to show that there is 3 facilities in Vietnam, 1 in Hanoi and 2 in Ho Chi Minh. Now, if we'll see into here, you'll see Nha Trang down here, which is where our friend Johnny lives. So Ho Chi Minh is his nearest location. We could go to either. So if you go up here and you click on list, it will give you the list instead. So we've got 2 in Ho Chi Minh, both that do medical and radiology. So medical is the main thing in the medical exam, and then radiology is the x-ray. So you can go to either of those, you can get their details, give them a call, make an appointment to go in there for those tests, and they will upload the test to the what's called the e-medical system, which Immigration New Zealand have access to. It's part of the system they share with Australia. So for Johnny, would recommend, as we do with a lot of our clients, that he was to get the test done before coming to New Zealand and get the police certificate done before coming to New Zealand. just so that he can then take 24 months or more and completely honest. Now, his sponsor is a person, because it is his fiancée. We'll give her the name, last name Cunningham, and the first name is Alt. We'll call her Alt, and we'll give her 16th of October 1977. Let's make her that her age. Passport number, again put that in, and it's going to be a New Zealand passport, New Zealand passport holder. Continue. Are there any additional applicants included in this application? Yes, so we're including Johnny's daughter in this application, so we're going to choose yes to that. Now, relationship to the principal is going to be his daughter. Family name, she is also a Silverhands, and we'll give her name a Jane. So she's Jane, he's John. Okay, and she is a Miss. No other names. She's female, and she's born on, let's say, the 1st of January 2014. There we go. Relationship status, she's single. She's just turned 7. Place of birth is Vietnam. She was born in, let's say she was born in Hoi An, beautiful Hoi An. Passport number, we'll make that up. Vietnam, and we're going to just put in general expiry date. And no, she has no other citizenships. No, that. Never lived in any other country, which not past age of 17, so no. Never applied for a visa before. No. And if there was further children, you could add another additional applicants there. There is no in this situation. Okay, this is for the principal applicant. This is for Johnny, so he hasn't got tuberculosis, hasn't got any of these things, and he's not going to get pregnant. He's not able to. He has lived in Vietnam for more than 3 months in the past 5 years, nowhere else. It's just been Vietnam. Now we're going to say he's previously provided an X-ray. It was in the last 36 months. So typically that would mean it doesn't require to provide a new one. And have you lived in for more than 6 months since the official was issued? Yes, he has, and he has lived in Vietnam. Now the reason why we're including this is because there are most countries, if you're there for more than 6 consecutive months, they will invalidate the X-ray. So there is a list of countries which immigration believes does not have tuberculosis. Let's see if we can bring that list up. Tuberculosis. Did I spell it correctly? Yes, I did. Where is the list of countries? Would be under acceptable standards. Here. Okay, so a person is considered to have a risk factor of TB if they have a passport issued by a country not listed in that, or in the countries. So there's people with the risk factor. Now the list is here. Now if you're in a country for more than 6 months after providing a X-ray and it's not on this list, then you need to get another X-ray. And here we'll see that Vietnam's not on the list. So even though there is that 3-year allowance for X-rays, they will last for 3 years of future applications. That does not count if you're more than 6 months in a country not on this list. So he will be required to provide another X-ray, which we'll see shortly. So let's go back to the application. So yes, Vietnam. Previously provided a general medical certificate. Yes, he has. And of course that was also within the last 3 years. Has his health deteriorated? No, it has not. He's still healthy. Now this one here causes a lot of confusion. Now this is, notice the words here, when you applied for your last visa, did they ask you to provide any future with this visa? So this is if there was a health issue flagged in your last visa which they noted existed, wasn't an issue at the time but could be an issue in the future. This we'll see it often for chest x-rays. We'll see it if there is some sort of scarring on the lungs that could be caused by an injury other than tuberculosis. The other one is if you have a medical issue. That's often going to be, the most common one we see is those who have hepatitis. So immigration will be looking to see whether that has gone into an antigen positive status, which means that they're going to be infectious and going to cost the country money. So So if they do say to you, okay, here's your visa, next time you're required to provide these different things, then tick the boxes here. Now, if they have not said that to you, then tick here, I have not been asked to provide medical information. Even though, in this case, we know that Johnny's going to require an x-ray because his last one's expired due to him being in Vietnam for more than 6 months, he hasn't actually been said, next visa, do a chest x-ray. He'll need to do it, but he hasn't been told to do it, so you don't tick that box. Okay, next page. This is the character one, similar to the one before, but this is in more depth, basically going through offences. And again, driving offences are an offence if you have been convicted. People often do forget about convictions for driving offences, but if you have been to court, you've been convicted, that is it there. We have had clients in the past who have been convicted for minor things without going to court. So if in doubt, definitely get legal advice as to whether you have a conviction or not. I think Australia did have, for some minor offences, there was an ability to just pay a fine, and people were not aware that by paying that fine, they were actually agreeing to a conviction. You've been refused for any country, including New Zealand. Now, this is more common than you would think, especially people being declined for visas for the USA. Being declined does not mean that you're going to be declined for a visa here. It often just means that for whatever criteria, the USA does not want you to have gone there. Quite often we'll have people who have been declined and then granted a visa to the USA shortly afterwards, or another country, but it's definitely, as always, be honest with immigration, let them know. Thing with being honest with immigration is that if you aren't honest and you don't tell them something and they find out later, that is a whole lot worse than just being honest with an issue and trying to resolve it. If they found later on that you had not told them about a visa that was declined by another place, then you have signed a form, filled out a form, knowing that it's incorrect, and that is a big issue. We get a lot of referral, a lot of work, people who are trying to resolve that issue. That's a big chunk of the work we do. Have you lived somewhere for more than 5 years since 17? Now, the purpose for this is that if you have, you'll be required to provide a police certificate for that country as well. So here we're going to say, yes, he lived in Sierra Leone, just because I wanted something else. That's a pretty name. Provide a police certificate for the country? No, he has not. For a certificate for Vietnam with previous application, we'll say he has. Was it the last 24 months? No, it wasn't. So yeah, so medicals last 3 years, X-rays last 3 years, unless you have that 6 months in a country not on that list, and police certificates last 2 years. Now this is the additional applicant. This is for Jane. Do they have tuberculosis? No, she doesn't. She doesn't have these things. Not pregnant. Now, because of her age, she is under 11. She's not required to, well, at her age, she's not required to give an X-ray. Let me just check the X-ray requirements. The age for temporary entry. So yes, pregnant women or children under 11 age are not required to have an X-ray examination. So because she is 7, she's not required to have an X-ray. But she is required to do a medical. So she will tick that. She's never been convicted of any of that. She's not under investigation. No. Not required because of her age. It's not required. It's under 17. Work history. Now, this application isn't for a work-based visa. However, as immigration is asking for your work history, then we recommend clients give it both for the current job and also for any previous jobs going back, including self-employment, just so that immigration's files are complete. It is asked for, so we'd recommend our clients to fill those out. And of course, do you have a partner? Well, yes, that is the point. And no, they're not included. As we said before, the partner is not actually applying for a visa. They have a passport. So we're saying no. And of course, we're putting in here Alt Cunningham again. Now, Alt was I mentioned before because she was the sponsor, but she wasn't mentioned as the partner. Now she's been mentioned as the partner. She has no other name she's known by. She's female. I think we gave her the birth date of 16 October 1977, and it is fiance. She was born in New Zealand. She was born in Auckland, City of Auckland, and then passport details from before. Copy that across. She's no other citizenship, so we'll hit continue. Do you have any contacts in New Zealand? Now here you'd want to put in Alt. You'd want to mention your partner as being someone that is a contact in New Zealand. They definitely are a friend, relative, or contact you have. If there's any others you have that are close friends or family, you should also include them. Don't feel the need to include 20, 30 people, but people that you do consider to be family or to be close friends, put them in there. You don't want to have that as being completely blank, especially because you are applying for a visa under partnership. But for now we'll leave it blank, but generally would put Alt in there. Now here, if you are having someone like myself completing this for you, you'd have this ticked out. And of course, I am a lawyer, I'm exempt, and I hold a certificate with the High Court of New Zealand. So we'd tick that, and then you just, of course, don't put my details in there unless I actually am acting for you. You'll confuse me and you'll confuse immigration. And we'll put our address in there. 15. But yeah, for the over there, actually. And phone number, address, email address, that sort of thing. Now we'll go on to the documents. So these are the documents required for the application. First thing is the passport photograph. Now we are going to quickly just check into that. We're just going to Google immigration. Oh, there we go. I looked at it before. If you Google that immigration NZ passport photo, you will get linked to this page, which provides details about the size it should be, the dimensions, it's a JPEG, and details about what it should be in there. So the size incorrect. Yeah, it shouldn't be a photo of your passport or a photo of a photo. That always amuses me. Definitely shouldn't be a selfie. A great selfie photo here. So these are things that the accepted way of doing it and the incorrect way of doing it. Now when you do upload the photograph into the system, it will actually run through a bit of software that will check the photograph, that will measure things out and let you know if there is an issue. If it's been taken professionally, it will generally go through. Once in a while we do notice that they are a little bit too dark and needs a little bit of brightness adjusted. Otherwise, they do go through okay. In New Zealand, you get it done at a post office or at a chemist. Other countries, you might have somewhere else you go to get these photographs done, but they should be able to know the New Zealand standard. If not, just take them this page and they'll be able to see the requirements as to the color of the background being neutral but not white, and all the various other information. Okay, so you upload it there. You'd upload a scan of your passport photographs, ID cards, that sort of thing. Here is the evidence of meeting the critical purpose visitor visa. So this is where you enter in the details about the relationship. We would we generally encourage our clients to do a letter to describe the relationship, provide a timeline of the relationship. Otherwise, documentation that show communication. You want to show that you're a genuine and stable relationship. Also look for documentation to do with living together. So it could be, if you own a property together, then ownership documents, bank documents, lease agreements, letters, communication, courier bags, things that show you're living at the same address at some point. Letters from friends and family can help as well. Letters from officials, depending on where you are in the situation. But that's what you'd upload there. Now, it's hard to put into one file. Luckily, at the bottom here, you can add additional documents. Now, there is a maximum of how many you can do, so we wouldn't recommend you to find out what that maximum is by having 100 different documents. Try and group your documents into categories. So here is a PDF of all the photographs with descriptions of who's in the photographs. Actually, give some context to the photograph with there's friends and family in there, or you might have a document with all your communication, or a document with your letters and letters from friends and family, or a document with letters from the bank and your bank statements, that sort of thing. So you can categorize the documents down to give immigration a bit of help in sort of managing the file. So don't make it one big file, but also where you can, but as long as it's nicely structured, or just break it down into 5 or 10 different files. So that's that one there. Sufficient funds. Now this was for Johnny to show that he had funds to cover his costs, and that's when you provide something from the bank statements or something from a letter from the bank or something to show the funds are available. Now, because they ticked the box stating that ALT would also be sponsoring, then this is when you have the sponsorship form 1025, which we're going to load up here. Now, this is the sponsorship form 1025, which is to be filled out by the New Zealand citizen resident partner. So, this is, you put in here the applicant form, so here you'd have Johnny's details there. Here you'd have Jane's details as a visitor visa application, and Jane would be included in there, and the number of months stay in New Zealand. The fact that Johnny is going to look at applying for a visa under partnership as soon as he's arrived means that this could probably be just 6 months. He needs to get to the country and make an application. That should be fine. Section B, not required. That's for foreign crew of fishing vessel. That can be ignored. Sponsors details. Now, natural person. So yes, C2. It's not an organisation or a government agency. So tick the box. Go to C2, and ALT would complete her information here about herself. That she's a New Zealand citizen. In relationship to the person's listed in A1 would be fiance, and some evidence. You probably just want to be able to say there as provided with main application, because you're providing evidence with that application as the relationship. And then go to C16. So you skip all these. And here ALT would look at the communication. So C7's her address, C13 is the one here. C7, go 18. Or you can say an advisor or a lawyer if you want to put them in here. Do you authorize the person in that to act on your behalf? Yes or no? Have you received immigration advice? If you have, then yes. If not, then no. If you previously sponsored somebody else to come to New Zealand, it could have been a previous partner, it could have been a student, it could have been just a friend or family coming on a visitor visa, then you want to include the details in here. And then if it's a natural person, then D1, D2, and D4. So will you be in New Zealand during the time of sponsorship? Well, yes, ALT will be there with Johnny. Having convicted under immigration law, you're sort of hoping these things are going to be no's going down through here. But as always, be honest. If for any of those you have to tick yes, then D4 provides you with an opportunity to explain the situation. So ticking yes won't mean that immigration will decline it, but they give you an option a chance to explain it. Now, the undertaking itself is that ALT is agreeing to financially support Johnny and Jane for their maintenance, provide suitable accommodation, and the means to leave New Zealand at the end of the stay. And to do so, she'll do bank statements or wage slips or a letter from her employer to confirm ongoing employment. So it's not required to show I have funds now, it's that I have funds coming in on a regular basis that cover the cost. And they're looking at minimum amount basically is going to be $1,000 per person per month if there's no accommodation being prepaid. Now, because they're living with Alt, then it's $400 per month per person of stay because the accommodation has been prepaid or paid for by Alt as she's going forward. Or you can provide a bank confirmation that there is funds in the account and the bank officer can sign that. Now here's the trickiest part in that this is not a document that can be signed just without someone being involved. This requires it to be it's a declaration. So it needs to be declared in front of somebody who can take a declaration. Now in New Zealand that's going to be a JP, a lawyer, or a notary public. In other countries that is going to differ as to who can do that, but if for our clients there's an allowance under the legislation during COVID that we can take such declarations remotely by video link, so we can do this for our clients, do this declaration, we go through it with them, and then we can sign it off that we have witnessed the declaration. And then we'd put in our details here at the end, and we'd sign a form to confirm that we have provided immigration advice. So that's the 1025 for if there is a sponsorship taking place. Now here's evidence of relationship with each additional applicant. So this is going to be between to show relationship between Johnny and his daughter. Now here is, of course, there's a chest x-ray required by Johnny because he's had more than 6 months in Vietnam since the last x-ray. So yes, his doctor in Ho Chi Minh, the radiologist, is going to be providing it to the system. And when he does that, he'll be provided with a page from the radiologist, which will be his photograph on, and on there will be a number with an N. Now, I think it's N with 8 characters, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It will tell us in a moment if there's not enough. Now, police certificates. Now, Johnny provided one previously for Vietnam, so that's been done already, but he hasn't provided one for Sierra Leone. So he needs to get one from Sierra Leone. Now we'll go back to this and find out how that takes place. We'll go back and change, we'll remove that, and we'll put in Sierra Leone. Apply to the Ministry of Justice. It doesn't provide much detail, so that could be a harder one to get. There are some countries where they're just impossible to get. If that's the case, then you can do a statutory declaration confirming that you have tried and provide evidence that you have tried, and that is just not possible to get. They are few and far between, but it is possible. Okay, so let's go back, and that could be the case with Sierra Leone. But if you did get it, you'd upload it here. Date of issue, which is written on the police certificate, and you'd upload it there. If it's not in English, it must be translated in official translation, which you can get from various companies for a reasonably cheap price and reasonably quickly. So yeah. And okay, so Vietnam, he hasn't provided one recently enough, so there'll be provided one there for Vietnam as well. Now for Jane, we've got the passport photograph and the picture of her passport. And she needs to do a medical, so yes, it's being done, and yes, she provided a number which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that's the correct number. And there needs to be a visa declaration form signed if you are having someone do the application for you or assisting you with it. This is just to give them first consent, so Aaron Hunt of Stace Hammond, to submit the application and then to act with regards to the application. Now, if you come to me after the application has been filed, this form's not required because we can confirm that with immigration without you needing to sign a form. But before the application is made, then we need to get you to sign this form. And then, yeah, additional documents at the end, anything else you'd need. In this situation, depending on their history, we would probably do a cover letter just to go through and to help immigration with what they need to know to handle the application. It could be us going through and saying, okay, they're a partnership, here's the criteria for the partnership, here's how they meet that criteria, and perhaps documenting or explaining the evidence provided, or if there's any evidence that we think is a bit light, explaining why it's a bit light. If it could be communication, it could be they've both got new cell phones and they've lost their text. So we've given you the text from this point, but they've got new phones. So sort of it's explaining why the evidence it is the way it is. We don't always do that. We generally do it most of the time with partnership visas, especially if there has been not a lot of time spent together. If they have had 20 years living together, then we probably wouldn't bother doing a cover letter, so it wouldn't add much to it. So it is one of those things we look at the application, whether it's required or not. And that is it. So after that, you'll hit continue. There we go. So it's 9 digits for the number. I was one off, so let's add an extra digit to each of those. Now it does check the fields for errors when you do go to page. And then finally there's a declaration page. We can tick that, hit continue, and if everything's okay, you'll then go to a payment page. But if you go up here, you will see that there's several red pages still needs to be completed. These are missing information, or here missing a lot of documentation. So unless those are done, you can't proceed through to the payment page. You can save it for later. You can do it partially, hit save for later, and then you'll see it appear in the list under the unsubmitted applications. There we go. There's today's Johnny Silverhands one. Click on here and you'll see that it is back in. Now, weirdly, you can't just jump to the other pages. You have to hit next on the first page. We don't know why. Once you've hit next on the first page, you can then jump to any page you want to. You have to go through them again. You see that they have turned red. So you have to go through each of the pages before you finally submit it. But you can just click on that and jump to each page as you go. And yeah, saying here are the ones you have to fill in. You've missed it. And if you want to, you can save a PDF as a separate file and do it that way. Now, if you are filling this out, you can invite a lawyer and advisor to have access to it, to allow them to log into it and either to view it or to edit it as well. It's often the way we do with our clients. We'll ask them to go through and complete the documentation because they will know their work history better than we do, but then we'll go through it and check it and confirm things with them and make sure it's done correctly. That just saves our time. We're going to spend less time going through entering in their information. Also, if our time is saved, then there's lower cost for them. So it's often the way that we encourage our clients to take that approach. And that is it. You will complete this, you'll go through, do the declaration, you'll do the payment, and then the submission, the application is made. You can then log in, go back to here, and I won't show it because I'll have client files under there, but under submitted, you will see the application. You can then go in there and upload new further documentation to it. There'll also be an invoice for your payment will be in there, along with any correspondence or official correspondence that immigration may send. So if there's a letter noting their concerns, it will be in there. And the visa itself, when or if the visa is granted, will also appear under the application. So you can always go back there and pull the visa out if required. And that is it. That is the hour and a quarter long overview of the CPVV process. If I give you a few ideas as to how things work, what various fields mean, we see a lot of questions online as to what does this mean, what does that mean. Well, hopefully that's answered some of your questions. Thank you for sitting through this. It's been a long video. Hopefully the audio has worked this time. As always, please, if you like the video, if it was useful, please like it. It really does help encourage YouTube to get the video out there. And of course, if you want to see more news from us and that in the future, please subscribe, and you'll be notified when there is new videos from us, which generally is sort of, hopefully once a week we're trying to do them, but only if there is sort of something to actually do a video on. We're not doing videos for the sake of it. And that is everything. It is now 2:30 on Sunday, the 17th of January. My name is Aaron Hunt. I am going to sign off now and go do some cleaning. As always, kia kaha, stay safe, and we'll see you again soon.